Hi everyone, FPL Matt Day here, and I'm going to be previewing Group D, which contains Australia, the country I live in, Tunisia, France and Denmark. So I'm in Melbourne, Victoria, on the east coast of Australia. So I'll start off and I will give my rundown on my thoughts on Australia in this World Cup. So for Australia, it was a difficult qualification process for them. They qualified through the Asia region, but because they didn't top their group, they had to play knockout qualifiers, and they ended up playing Peru, which was the fifth base South American team, and they beat them on pens. It was an absolutely epic shootout. Redmayne was the goalkeeper, who put on a really big display for the Socceroos. How do I think they'll go in this group? Not many people are expecting them to get much, maybe a point at best. Some are hoping that the Tunisia game can be the one that they might be able to win out of the three games. But it is a tough group. It's not the best Australia squad that we've ever seen. 2006, they had the likes of Lucas Neal, Tim Cahill, Harry Kewell, Brett Emerton, John Aloisi. These were all household names. Right now, there's not too many household names in there. You've got Aaron Moy, who used to play for Brighton in England, now currently isn't in the Premier League anymore. Trent Sainsbury, who used to play for PSV Eindhoven, isn't even in the squad. He didn't get the call up. And the likes of Tim Cahill are retired. So, now there is Garang Kual, who plays for the Central Coast Mariners in the A-League. He has signed for Newcastle United in the Premier League and will be joining them in the January transfer window. Probably will go on loan, but he's someone who, I'm tipping, and a lot of people in Australia are hoping can come out and have a really big breakthrough World Cup. Other than that, there's Jamie McLaren. He's an A-League veteran, scores a lot of goals in the A-League, has played for Hearts before in the Scottish League, and he got a hat-trick in that league. I believe it was against Celtic. And he's someone that's going to want to fire and show himself on the world stage in this World Cup. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one for the Socceroos. Graham Arnold is their coach. He's been very successful here in Australia, winning titles with Sydney FC, but his style can be quite pragmatic and quite negative. So I'm not sure if we're going to see the most attacking Socceroos. I think they'll try and hang in there and, try and, grind results, grind wins if they can. But again, there isn't a huge expectation on them out here in Australia. So it will be interesting to see how they do. There's also a few other good A-League players in there. We've got Craig Goodwin. He's probably like a very not so good version of like a Gareth Bale, left-footed player. Can take a man on, can drop a shoulder, has a good finish on him, can take a set piece, but, obviously not near the level of Gareth Bale, but he does play here in the A-League. So if he gets games, he could be another one to look out for as well. But again, like I said, Australia, I'd probably tip them to be sort of third or fourth in this group. Not the best squad. A coach that isn't, so favourable with a lot of the fans. But, Australia always have, the will to just keep going. And that's probably their biggest asset in this tournament, because from a football point of view and ability point of view, technically it isn't the best squad. And there's a lot of players who just aren't playing in the top European leagues. There's players in the A-League, there's players in some overseas clubs in Europe, but they're not, not necessarily the top leagues, La Ligas, Premier Leagues, Bundesliga. There is a couple. We got Jackson Irvine from the Bundesliga at St. Pauli. And there's a few others dotted around, but it's not like the days of, Brett Emerton, Cahill, Kewell, and the like. So Swartzer as well. So, it is going to be a tricky test for the Socceroos. I'll predict them to finish third or fourth probably in this group. The next one in this group, we've got Tunisia. I don't know huge amounts about Tunisia. I do remember them in the 1998 World Cup in England's group. They didn't qualify out of it then. But again, they're part of the African qualification process, and you've got to beat a lot of good teams to come out of that confederation. So Tunisia for me could be, similar to Australia. People aren't going to know huge amounts about their squad, but they could spring up a bit of a surprise, because the one thing about Tunisia that was really, really impressive and interesting is they get a lot of the French-born players. So a lot of players that don't decide to play for France, that were born in France, family are French, they're French, but family are Tunisian, but they're French born. Their heart is with Tunisia. They want to play for Tunisia. They decide to play for Tunisia instead of the French, and then they end up playing for Tunisia. And I think Tunisia have about 8 or 9 French-born players in this squad. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how they go. So they're still going to have flair. They're still going to, have good footballers in there. But again, I don't think I can back them in the top 2. For me, similar to Australia, I think they're both playing for 3rd and 4th. And then as for the top 2, we've got Denmark in there, Euros, semi-finals, lost to England in extra time. They were so close to getting to the Euro final. Some really good footballers in there. You've got Pierre-Emerick Højbjerg, who plays for this team here, Tottenham Hotspur. I watch this side every week, and he is absolutely brilliant for Spurs. And he's going to be a very solid player for Denmark. Also, another ex-Spurs player, Christian Eriksen. What a player, what a playmaker. Still doing the business at Man United now. He returned after that. What happened to him at the Euros with his heart? He passed away for a few minutes of his life. It was just extraordinary that he's now bounced back, returned, and is playing football again. So yeah, really, really good to see. And I'm really excited to see him in another major tournament for Denmark. Christian Eriksen, big player. They've also got Kasper Schmeichel in goal. You've got the likes of Poulsen in there as well. Christensen in defence. They've got a very solid team, Denmark. They are playing for 1st spot and 2nd spot in this group. I do not see them not qualifying out of this group. Well organised, good coach, disciplined side. Damsgaard as well, don't forget. So really excited to see Denmark in this tournament. I'll back them for 2nd because in 1st place, I'm going to pick the French. France, Les Bleus, won the tournament in 2018. Obviously, a top side. Mbappe's in there. There is injuries this year. There's no Pogba, there's no Kante. But, I mentioned before, you've got teams like Tunisia who have got 7 or 8 French players. Morocco have got French players. I saw a post earlier and I think they were saying, in the 2018 World Cup, there was 50 French-born players. In this World Cup, there's probably going to be similar, 30 to 40 French-born players, the most of any nation coming into this World Cup. There's probably going to be even more than that. Actually, now I think about it, and yeah, phenomenal production line, phenomenal squad. You can make 5 or 6 or 7 quality squads out of this French team. Quality coach. So many options. Okay, there's talk of some, maybe disruptions in the squad, but you tend to get that a lot, with some of these bigger nations like France. But we're going to see the return of Benzema, who I think will have a really good tournament. He's going to want to end his France legacy, his World Cup legacy, his footballing legacy on a high, especially because he wasn't picked for the French national team when they were in 2018 and obviously won the competition then. So really excited to see Benzema in there. Really interesting group in the fact that you've got 2 teams that are probably real standouts and 2 teams that, look a lot weaker on paper. But sometimes these are the groups that pull up some of the best games, some of the interesting results and some of the shocks of the tournament. But like I said, I'm backing France to finish 1st, Denmark to finish 2nd. I'll put the Socceroos in 3rd because I am in Australia. So I want to, please all the Socceroos and Australia fans. And I want to see them get goals. I want to see them get points. I want to see them give it a real go and excite the nation over here. And then in 4th, I'll put Tunisia. But that's my preview. I'm FPL Matt Day. You can find me on all the socials at FPL Matt Day. And thanks for tuning in to my Group D preview for the World Cup 2022.